This is an impossible message. And I think that's part of the fun. How do you describe the end of an effect? The end of an illusion? The end of something that felt extremely real but never really existed? Without it, what it seems like is that life or what is was always so simple and ordinary and closer than it's so direct. it's There's no filter, so everything is just what it is, and it feels extraordinary because it hasn't been experienced, or no one's experiencing it, but it hasn't been seen or perceived this way without a filter, without a self being separate from it. So without the effect, it's just so immediate. It's just what it is, unexplainable, and yet undeniable, but it's so unknowable. Like, no one knows this. No one is here to claim that they have gone beyond the illusion, because the person is the illusion, it's the whole effect. It's impossible to put this into words because words are an expression of duality. There's nothing wrong or right with that. It's just born from duality. So, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the fun and the beauty of trying to explain the unexplainable. It's so ordinary, but it's so extraordinary. I guess when it's compared to the illusion of the person and how convincing it is. So when there's a person, there's time, there's a center point, there's a perspective, there's an entity in here, or it seems like it. There's a me, I'm here, I exist. And what's created from that is moving in a timeline. So I had a past, I'm in the now, and I have a future. I'm going to into the future. So already that's an immense amount of heaviness or baggage. I call it heaviness not in necessarily a negative way. It's just it feels heavy compared to what it feels like now, because nothing can stick to anything, because there's no one in here for a past to stick to or a future to exist. And that doesn't mean memories of the past can't arise and fantasies or imaginations of the future can't arise. It's just that it's not really believed in as like a solid part of me, because there is no me. It's just a memory and it's just a fantasy. all of that loses its validity. It becomes empty. And also with when there's a belief that there's a me in here living a life, owning a life, then there's a lot of insecurity. Am I making the best of my life? Am I living a good life? Am I a good person? Am I giving? Am I compassionate? Am I a good spiritual person? Am I awake? Am I not awake? You're always trying to get somewhere. You're always trying to improve your life, change your life, get somewhere other than this. This isn't good enough. There's always this push and pull, this pushing away, resisting what you don't want, and trying to grab onto and hold on to that which you really want. And this is a very strong mechanism of the me. It's never this is never good enough or satisfactory. There's always a dissatisfaction. Even if there's no problem, there's a dissatisfaction. But when there's seemingly a problem, in a way, the sense of me creates the lack, creates the feeling of dissatisfaction, creates the problem, and then solves the problem or becomes satisfied for a while, gets the thing that it wants, and it satisfies them for a while. Maybe it's more money or a title or a partner or a house or, yeah, traveling, whatever it might be. Could be anything, 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 anything. And it truly believes once I get that, I'll be happy. And the thing is, you do it could be that you become satisfied, you become happy, and that seeking, that dissatisfaction actually ceases for a while. So then it also almost becomes evidence to the me that this thing did actually give me satisfaction. This thing was actually the answer. It wasn't quite it though. But the next thing will really be it. And this is kind of the narrative that can go on. And this is what feeds and perpetuates the seeking energy. And this is just a description. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing. It's quite amazing. One of the tricky things is that it's actually part of the natural movement of the living organism to go toward what it wants and to move away from what it doesn't want. So that movement is not wrong. It's very natural. But what can happen when there's a me energy, that can be extremely exacerbated, amplified. There could be a development of a kind of neuroses around getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want. It's an amazing effect. And once it's seen that there's no one in here, there's no real person, there's no entity, there's no one here. This is just a body. This is a body and a mind conditioning. How this was raised by its environment, by its parents, by other influences. All of it is programming and conditioning. And so everything goes on. This character actually acts pretty much the same. What seems to be just dissolving because there's no one here caring is like neuroses. So before, when this character got angry, there would be layers of a narrative. I shouldn't be angry. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not patient enough. I'm not understanding enough. I should be better. Something's wrong. And that enhances the agitation, dissatisfaction, the feeling like this is not enough. Something's missing. Something needs to change. Something's wrong. But now it's like there's just anger for no one. And so what? And because that anger isn't owned by anyone, it leaves when it leaves. It stays as long as it stays. There's no one here to care. And this is so unimaginable for the person because it's indescribable, because there can still be a conditioning here that cares about what others, how others will perceive this organism. That's conditioned here. So if I get angry, I'll express the anger, but there'll still be a social conditioning. And of course, this is not conscious at all, it's just built in. And there's this sense that there isn't just like a screaming or yelling that happens. It's just like there's anger, expression happens. There isn't really an overreaction or anything. There isn't too much of a caring about what other people think, but it's also like there's just a conditioning that other people might react really adversely if I react a certain way. And again, this isn't conscious. This isn't like planned out or anything. I'm just explaining that certain conditionings are still here. Like things don't fall apart when there's a realization that there's no one here. Everything functions the same. And it has always been that way. There is no you there already. It just really feels like there's a me here that has choice and free will, that can do things better, that can manage their emotions or responses. But there's no one there, no one here. This is a crazy message. And most people, when they hear this, will disregard it or think that I'm crazy. And so what? I can understand why. Before, I wouldn't have been able to hear this type of message. Before a couple of months ago, I don't think I would have been very open to it. So, yeah, I get it. There isn't a desire here to convince anyone. This is just a message or a description of what it's like, because it's exciting, it's it's fascinating, it's a complete mystery. It's amazing that no one has known anything, because there's no one here to know anything. Everything is just mysteriously happening, and it's amazing that the mind can come up with all of these stories and conclusions, and um, it can just come up with all this meaning and story and narrative. It's amazing. It wants to know, it wants to have an answer. And the thing is, it'll never get an answer. Because there is no answer. What seems to happen is the questions just dissolve because the mind sees it's not getting anywhere, and it really didn't get anywhere before. It seemed like it did. It seemed like it got some answers, but in the end, it ends up that no one ever knew anything. And that's the freedom, that's the liberation. Everything is just as it is, and no one is here saying that it has to be otherwise. In a way, everything is perfect just as it is. The vast mystery of it all, the unexplainable, ungraspable, unknowable, completely perfect just the way it is. And that can't be understood with the mind. Only with the dissolving or dropping away or the seeing beyond the illusion can you really see that everything's been perfection this whole time. There's no time, but it's always been perfection. It's always been wholeness. It's always been just this absolute chaos, beautiful chaos. This is freedom. This is it. There's nowhere better to get to. This is it. This is it.